My wife. The woman I swore to share my life with, the same person I trusted blindly, hosted a singles party at our house while I was miles away on a work trip. What was supposed to be an ordinary weekend, in which she waited for me with longing and affection, turned into a nightmare, a scenario worthy of a devastating betrayal. I was hundreds of miles away when my cell phone vibrated with a call that shouldn't have caused me so much alarm. It was the neighbor. A man I barely knew, but who was now telling me something I would never forget: "There's a party at your house. The noise is unbearable. I thought you were away." The shock hit me before I could even process it. The phrase. The party? A party? At home? What the hell was going on? The disbelief mixed with a knot in my stomach was enough for me to throw my cell phone on the table and order a strong coffee, while a cloud of anger began to form in my mind. Upon returning home, the scene was desolate. There were bottles thrown on the floor, broken glasses and music that, even when turned off, still echoed in my ears. Every step I took in that house I once considered a safe haven now felt drenched in betrayal. The smell of booze was still in the air, but what really suffocated me was the thought of what had happened within those walls while I was gone. I started walking around the house like a ghost. There was no need for visible evidence, because the worst had already been revealed. Every object out of place, every sign of a presence that shouldn't be there, increased my fury. The sound of laughter, previously hidden in the walls, now echoed in my mind. The scenes began to form in flashes in my head, as if I were there, witnessing everything, being forced to watch my own nightmare come to life. What was worse? The feeling of having been deceived, or the certainty that she did that in our house? She knew. She knew where I was, she knew I trusted her, and yet she chose to break everything. The neighbor's voice was still ringing in my head: "I thought you were away." He thought so, because even he knew I wasn't home, but she knew. And it no longer mattered the reason, it no longer mattered whether it was a momentary mistake or a conscious decision. The damage was done, and the person I trusted most became the source of my torment. As I sifted through the remains of that party, my mind raced with questions. How many people were here? Who were they? Did she plan all of this from the beginning? Could this be the first sign of a betrayal that I hadn't noticed before? It was as if every room in the house was screaming at me, showing me signs I ignored, details that had gone unnoticed while I lived my comfortable and safe life alongside her. My heart, which until then had been naive, was shattered into a million pieces. I remember taking a deep breath before opening the bedroom door. I knew that there, in that bed that was supposed to be the symbol of our love, lay the final test. There was no turning back. And when I opened the door, reality hit me so hard it almost knocked the air out of me. The smell of perfume that wasn't mine, the tossed sheet, marks of a presence that wasn't mine. I didn't need any more explanations. Everything was there, wide open in front of me, and the silence in the room screamed louder than any music at that damn party. The flashes started. Scenes that I had not witnessed, but that my mind was now constructing with cruel precision. She, laughing, surrounded by people who weren't part of our lives. She, enjoying every second as if I didn't exist, as if our wedding was just an insignificant detail in a night of fun. Why did she do that? I asked myself, over and over again. So many nights together, so many plans, so many promises. And yet, there was the reality: she chose this parallel life. She made the choice to betray me, to destroy everything we built, while I was away, without even suspecting. When the confrontation finally happened, words didn't come easy. Anger blinded me. "How could you?" was all I could say. His expression of surprise mixed with a failed attempt to justify his actions only fueled my fury. There was no justification that could erase what was done. Divorce was inevitable. I couldn't go on, I couldn't forgive. Every time I thought about that night, every detail of the party, every unknown face that invaded my house, the hatred grew stronger. She broke something inside me that could never be repaired. I thought the end of our relationship would be the end of my pain, but the real blow came during the separation process. The lawyer, with his coldness, presented the evidence that I never expected to find. The betrayal wasn't just emotional. It involved money, financial decisions that I never knew were being made. She had been preparing, for a long time, to leave me with almost nothing. Every word the lawyer said, every detail of the accounts that I didn't know, was like a knife stuck in me. The truth? Not only did she destroy our marriage, she was also calculatingly planning her exit. I found myself, at that moment, powerless. Not only betrayed but also robbed. But it wouldn't stay that way. I swore to myself that if she wanted to play dirty, I would play dirtier. The divorce process turned into a battle. I was willing to destroy everything that was left, to leave her with nothing. And I did it. I exposed her, I ruined her. Her every move, every lie, every penny she tried to hide. Everything came to light. The judge sided with me, and she, who was once the woman of my life, left with little more than the clothes on her back. But in the end, was this enough to heal the pain? What she didn't know was that the real punishment was yet to come. Welcome to the channel. Here, we never support any type of betrayal. The stories you will hear are fictional, but the moral is clear: betrayal destroys lives, corrupts hearts and leaves deep scars. Get ready, because what comes next is a shocking narrative that will keep you hooked from beginning to end. Enjoy the story and delve into the devastating consequences of those who choose the path of infidelity. The heat of the sun reflected off the windows of the two-story house where Adam and Lisa lived, a couple who, for many, seemed to have found the formula for happiness. Married for 8 years, Adam was the typical man dedicated to his family and work. He worked as a manager at a tourism company, which provided him with a stable lifestyle and good travel opportunities, something he and Lisa always valued. Lisa, on the other hand, was a free-spirited woman, an artist who found inspiration in the colors and shapes of everyday life. Her studio was on the upper floor of the house, where she spent hours creating paintings and sculptures that she said expressed what she could not put into words. To anyone observing them from the outside, Adam and Lisa were the perfect portrait of a successful, modern couple. At social events, the chemistry between the two was evident. They smiled together, exchanged complicit glances and always made a point of showing that, despite life's challenges, they still maintained a solid connection. For Adam, marriage to Lisa was a refuge. He was proud of the complicity he believed he had built with her over the years. On summer nights, they used to sit on the porch, next to each other, watching the starry sky and talking about dreams and plans for the future. He liked to lose himself in the feeling that, with Lisa by his side, everything was in the right place. Lisa, in turn, was a woman with quiet ambitions. Her creativity was pulsating, and she always said that marriage completed her. However, there was something in the depths of his gaze, something that Adam never really noticed. There were subtle changes in mood, small signs of restlessness that she hid well. When Adam was home, Lisa was affectionate, attentive, but there was a space between them that seemed to be slowly growing, a space that Adam, in his devotion and trust, did not notice. The home they shared was a reflection of the comfortable lifestyle they built together. The front garden, always well tended by Adam, gave a feeling of tranquility. Inside, Lisa decorated the rooms with her own artwork, giving a personal touch to every corner of the house. His works were always abstract, full of vibrant colors, which contrasted with Adam's calm and reserved personality. He loved what Lisa did, always encouraging her creativity and proudly sharing his wife's achievements. Every time one of her paintings was sold or praised, Adam was the first to congratulate her, as if he himself had been part of the creation. But, as in every marriage, the nuances of real life began to appear. Adam worked long hours and occasionally traveled for work. Whenever he returned, he brought gifts and stories to share. He liked to believe that these trips, even if brief, strengthened the relationship, as they gave both people time to miss each other and value the moments together even more. Lisa, however, seemed more distant with each return. Although he still greeted him with a smile and hugs, something in his energy had changed. During the weeks that Adam was away, Lisa dedicated herself to her artistic work, but she also began to hang out with friends more. Her social circle was different from Adam's. He preferred a quieter life, while she sought new and engaging experiences. Adam, in his unwavering confidence, never questioned these outings. He believed that, just as he needed his travels to recharge, Lisa also deserved her space. Between Adam's comings and goings, Lisa seemed to blossom in a different way. She became more independent, more involved with the world around her. The art studio became not only her creative refuge, but also a space where she could be whoever she wanted to be without Adam's watchful eye. He never thought anything could be wrong. Whenever I asked how things were, Lisa would smile and say everything was fine. Adam believed, because he wanted to believe. There was an apparent peace in their marriage, that calm that often precedes a storm. In the eyes of their friends, the couple was the perfect example of how two people, with such different personalities, could coexist and complement each other. At the parties they organized, Lisa shined. She had a gift for entertaining people, for making everyone feel welcome. Adam, more reserved, always supported her, pleased to see her so alive, so excited. However, in the silences that hung between them, Lisa began to question herself. Life with Adam, despite being stable and comfortable, seemed to no longer completely satisfy her. His travels gave him time to reflect, to explore what he missed. Adam, on the other hand, didn't see that. He believed he was doing everything right. He was proud of supporting the household, of giving Lisa the freedom to pursue what she loved, and he believed that was enough. The neighborhood where they lived was calm, full of families who, like them, had built their lives there. The neighbors knew them well, and every weekend there were casual get-togethers, barbecues, events at which Adam and Lisa were always welcome. Still, there was something that escaped everyone's eyes, an invisible fracture that was slowly beginning to open between them. Adam didn't notice, trapped in his own bubble of trust and love for his wife, while Lisa silently drifted away a little more each day. The routine days blended together, and the house, with its walls painted by Lisa, looked more and more like a showcase of a life that did not fully reflect the truth within. Lisa, with her art, found a way to express what she couldn't verbalize. His paintings became darker, more complex, but Adam saw this as a sign of his evolution as an artist, never suspecting that it was a reflection of his conflicting feelings. Over time, Adam's trips became more frequent, as did Lisa's outings. They lived in parallel worlds, even when they were together. Adam was immersed in his routine, in his career, believing that his absence was compensated for by the moments of affection he offered when he returned. Lisa, in turn, was increasingly absorbed in a life that Adam didn't know, a life of encounters, of new experiences, that made her feel alive in a way that marriage no longer could. This was the basis of their relationship. A marriage that, from the outside, was impeccable. A loving husband, a creative wife, a comfortable home and a life full of appearances. But behind all this was the beginning of a rupture. Something that had not yet been brought to light, but that, sooner or later, would inevitably come to light. And so, without either of them fully realizing it, what was once a solid union began to fragment. Adam was packing his suitcase for another work trip. Orlando was a destination he visited frequently, a place that had already become part of his career routine. He was excited, but something felt different that morning. There was a strange restlessness in the air, something he couldn't name. The goodbye kiss that Lisa gave him was quick, almost automatic, without the usual sweetness that usually accompanied them. She smiled, as always, but the smile seemed more distant. Adam noticed, but pushed the thought away. A routine had settled between them, and maybe it was just tiredness. On the road, Adam's mind wandered between thoughts of work and memories of the early years of his marriage. There was something special about the way they connected back then, a spark he hoped to revive. In those moments of nostalgia, he often thought of ways to surprise Lisa, to rekindle what time and travel and everyday life had dimmed. Meanwhile, at home, Lisa closed the door with a sigh of relief. With Adam gone, the weight of guilt she carried seemed to lessen. She walked around the house, contemplating her works of art, but her mind was far away, distracted by thoughts that had been consuming her for some time. Lisa had lost herself within herself, in a maze of doubts, unconfessed desires, and secrets that left her tense every time she looked at Adam. During the days he was away, Lisa started going out more often. Lonely nights had become an excuse to search for something she didn't even know was missing until she began to feel it. It was on one of these nights, a few months ago, that something happened. Something that changed the way she viewed marriage, that led her to question whether she still loved Adam in the same way as before. On one of those nights, she met someone. A casual meeting, an innocent conversation that, over time, turned into something more. The look in that man's eyes was different, and the way he listened to her awakened an emotion in Lisa that she hadn't experienced in years. As the days passed, Lisa became more deeply involved in this new reality. Her feelings for Adam hadn't disappeared, but they were dormant, overshadowed by this new emotion that took her by surprise. She knew she was playing with fire, that her relationship with that man was going too far, but the adrenaline of experiencing something new was intoxicating. Adam, in turn, was oblivious to what was happening. On his travels, he would send loving messages to Lisa, trying to keep the connection he cherished alive. Her responses were polite, affectionate, but distant. He attributed the coldness to the fact that they were separated, and made plans for a romantic surprise when he returned. Little did he know that while he was away, his wife was on a path of no return. That week was particularly intense for Lisa. The other man, who until then had been just a distraction, became an increasingly constant presence in her mind. They exchanged secret messages, planned meetings when Adam wasn't around. The guilt was starting to eat away at Lisa, but at the same time, she couldn't stop. It was as if she was caught between two worlds, the comfort and security of her marriage, and the excitement of something forbidden. That night, while Adam slept in his hotel room, Lisa hosted a small house party. It wasn't anything big, just a few friends and acquaintances. Among them, of course, was the man who had been occupying his thoughts. Loud music and laughter echoed through the halls of the house, now filled with an energy that Adam would never have imagined. It was as if, for a few hours, Lisa was living another life, a life where there was no commitment, where marriage was a distant memory. The neighbor, who lived a few houses away, was the first to notice the noise. It was late, and the music seemed louder than usual. Intrigued, he decided to call Adam. It was an impulse, perhaps an attempt to be helpful, but his words echoed over the phone with a weight he hadn't expected. "There's a party at your house." "I thought you were traveling." Adam, when he received the call, was stunned. A party? He tried to understand what was happening. Lisa rarely organized events when he was away, and the neighbor's tone sounded worried. Something wasn't right. The restlessness he had felt before leaving was now returning with a vengeance. He hung up the phone, trying to rationalize the situation, but a growing doubt settled in his chest. The next morning, upon returning earlier than planned, Adam arrived home. The silence he found outside did not reflect the confusion that hovered in his mind. He opened the door and was greeted by a scene that didn't look like the home he knew. There were glasses scattered around, chairs out of place, and the smell of alcohol was still in the air. The feeling that something was terribly wrong intensified with every step he took. He called out to Lisa, but silence was his only response. He went up the stairs with a heavy heart, and it was when he opened the bedroom door that everything fell apart. There, before him, was confirmation of what he feared but never wanted to believe. The bed, which should have been the symbol of the intimacy and love they shared, was now the scene of their greatest pain. The silence in Adam's room was piercing, heavy, almost suffocating. The turned-off lights contrasted with the morning light that invaded the house through the windows, revealing what he never thought he would witness. Before his eyes, the bed where he and Lisa shared so many intimate moments was now a lost battlefield. The disheveled sheet, the pillow out of place, everything there screamed that someone had been there, someone who wasn't him. The smell of perfume, which certainly didn't belong to Lisa, still wafted in the air, mixed with the faint odor of alcohol from the night before. His mind tried to put the pieces together, but the shock paralyzed him. Adam leaned against the door, the weight of the moment making him feel like his legs were going to give out at any moment. He couldn't move. The images from the night before, the phone call from the neighbor, the party, the chaos left in the room, everything lined up perfectly with what he saw now. He knew, even without witnessing anything directly, that the betrayal had happened, there, in the sanctuary of his marriage. His breathing became ragged. His heart beat in an uneven rhythm, each beat echoing in his ears. How could she do that, he asked himself, feeling the first wave of anger mixed with pain pierce his chest. The trust, which until that moment he had considered unshakable, was shattered. Adam felt a kind of emptiness, as if a part of his soul had suddenly been ripped away. Suddenly, he heard footsteps coming from the hallway. Lisa appeared at the bedroom door. His eyes met Adam's, and the instant he saw his expression, he knew something was terribly wrong. His hesitant smile immediately disappeared. She tried to remain calm, but the nervousness in her posture was evident. There was no disguising what had happened. The silence between the two stretched for long seconds, until Adam finally broke the invisible barrier that separated them. "What happened here, Lisa?" His voice was low, but carried with an overwhelming intensity. Lisa froze. The guilt she had been trying to suppress for the past few weeks finally crashed down on her with the weight of an avalanche. His face turned pale, and his hands shook slightly. She tried to formulate a response, but no words seemed appropriate. No excuse would be enough. "Adam, her voice trailed off, but she tried again, this time more firmly, but still hesitant. "It's not what you think." Adam let out a bitter laugh, filled with disbelief. "Isn't that what I'm thinking?" He repeated, the irony in his voice evident. "So tell me, Lisa. Tell me what happened here while I was gone, because everything I see tells me exactly what I'm thinking." Lisa felt the ground disappear beneath her feet. She knew there was no way around it. Everything was in sight. There were no excuses, no lies that could repair what was broken. Every word she thought to say felt empty. I made a mistake, Adam," she said, almost in a whisper. "A terrible mistake. But it doesn't mean I don't love you." "A mistake?" Adam repeated, his voice rising in pitch. "A mistake, Lisa. Do you call cheating on our marriage a mistake? How could you?" He was on his feet now, pain brimming with fury. His eyes were fixed on her, searching for answers he knew wouldn't bring comfort. Lisa felt the tears build up, but she knew that crying at that moment would be pointless. There was no way to ask for forgiveness for something so unforgivable. "I don't know what to say, Adam. That was. I don't know what happened to me," she stammered, trying to find some explanation that made sense. "I felt alone, confused. I felt," she hesitated, unable to put into words the feelings that led her to destroy everything. "Alone?" He interrupted, his voice sharp. "Did you feel alone?" "How, Lisa? How can you feel alone? I've always been here. I was always your support, I did everything for us. I trusted you. I loved you. How can you say you were alone?" Adam's words cut deep. His every sentence was a reflection of his pain, his disappointment. He paced the room, unable to sit still, anger dominating his movements. "Adam, listen to me," Lisa pleaded, taking a step towards him. "I know I made a mistake. I know what I did is unforgivable, but I love you. I never wanted to hurt you." Adam stopped walking and stared at Lisa, his eyes burning with anger and hurt. "If you love me, Lisa, why did you do this? he asked, his voice full of sadness. How could you do this to me? With our marriage? Lisa felt her heart speed up. Tears were now flowing freely down his face, but Adam showed no compassion. The betrayal was too deep, the pain overwhelming. He shook his head slowly, as if he couldn't believe what was happening. I don't know, Adam. I was lost, she repeated, without conviction. The words seemed increasingly empty. But Adam knew that behind Lisa's excuses was something more. An instinct, a feeling that she wasn't telling the whole truth. The betrayal was already a devastating blow, but something else was haunting his mind, as if a crucial piece was missing from that puzzle. He took a deep breath, trying to control the anger that threatened to explode. There was something beyond physical betrayal, something he felt Lisa was hiding. He realized he needed to dig deeper, find out what was really going on. In the days that followed, Adam began searching for answers, noticing details he hadn't noticed before. The bank accounts, the transactions Lisa made while he was away. Each little clue began to form a much larger, darker picture. Adam was meticulous, keeping his feelings aside and focusing on discovering the truth. Until, one afternoon, he found the missing proof. Lisa, over the past few months, wasn't just betraying her love and trust. She was getting ready to leave him. Secret bank accounts, transfers of considerable amounts, everything indicated that she was slowly withdrawing money, preparing for a planned escape. And what's worse, she was trying to ensure that when the divorce happened, he would be left with next to nothing. When Adam confronted Lisa with the documents in hand, she didn't deny it. The shock on his face was replaced by silent resignation. She knew she had been caught. You were stealing from me, Lisa, he said, his voice low but dangerous. It wasn't enough to destroy our marriage. Did you want to destroy my life too? Lisa was silent for a long moment, the weight of her actions finally falling on her. She had lost more than she realized, and now, the truth was exposed. There was no escaping what she had done. Adam, she began, but he interrupted her. It's over, Lisa. I'm going to make sure you come out of this with what you deserve, nothing. The silence that followed the revelation seemed endless. Lisa stared at Adam, but her words no longer had any force. The man in front of her was no longer the devoted husband she knew. He had been transformed by shock, by anger, and now she saw only a stranger, someone who looked at her with a coldness that made her shiver. All that remained between them were the fragments of a relationship that, until recently, seemed solid. Adam was still standing, his hands tightly wrapped around the documents that proved Lisa's meticulous plan to leave him with nothing. He was breathing heavily, his heart still racing from the mix of emotions that consumed him. In his mind, the images of the last few days mixed with the memories of all the years they spent together, as if he was reviewing the entire marriage from a new perspective. The love, the companionship, the trips, the smiles, everything now seemed empty, distorted by lies and betrayal. Lisa tried to speak, but the words stuck in her throat. She knew any excuse would sound false. The plan she had carefully concocted was now exposed, and there was no turning back. Regret was finally starting to creep in, but it was too late. Adam, who had always been the foundation of her life, now saw her as an enemy. I never wanted it to be like this, she whispered, trying to justify the unjustifiable, but the sentence died in the air before reaching Adam's ears. He didn't respond immediately. Instead, he threw the papers onto the table with a sharp movement, as if trying to free himself from the physical and emotional weight they represented. Adam turned, walking to the bedroom window, looking at the garden outside. The wind gently moved the leaves of the trees, but within it, a storm was brewing. He felt a desperate need to get it all out, to make Lisa understand how deeply he had been hurt. You stole from me, Lisa, her voice sounded cold, but filled with contained pain. It wasn't just the money. You stole my trust, my respect, everything we built together. She didn't know what to answer. For the first time, Lisa felt the full impact of her actions. What once seemed like an easy way out, a plan to escape a marriage that no longer satisfied her, now turned out to be an irreparable mistake. She had miscalculated, underestimated how much Adam was a part of her, and how much her choices would destroy not only the man, but also any chance of redemption. Adam took one last look at the garden and looked back at her, the expression on his face now more controlled, but still tense. "I could have forgiven the betrayal," he said, each word filled with immeasurable pain. "But you tried to destroy me. That's what broke me. You already knew that you wanted out of this marriage for months, and instead of being honest, of at least having the decency to tell me the truth, you deceived me. He planned everything behind my back. He pretended to love me while he prepared his escape. And the worst of all, you knew I loved you enough to never suspect." Those words fell on Lisa like a weight she couldn't bear. She wanted to respond, she wanted to find some way to fix what she had done, but the gravity of the situation was pulling her down, immobilizing her. She knew that no matter how hard she tried, Adam would never see her the same way again. "What did you expect, Lisa?" Adam continued, his voice now laced with desperation. "That I discovered all this and just accepted it? That I let you take everything we built together and move on, as if it were nothing?" Lisa shook her head, tears streaming down her face. She had no answers. He had no explanations that could alleviate the damage he had caused. The blunt truth was that, at some point, she had stopped seeing Adam as the man she shared her life with and had seen him only as a barrier to her freedom. She had allowed herself to be consumed by a sense of dissatisfaction, not realizing that the true destruction would come not from her escape, but from the way she deceived him. "Adam," she began, her voice trembling, trying to control the emotion that threatened to explode. "I can't apologize for that. I know how much I hurt you, and I know nothing I say will change that. But please, I never wanted it to end like this." He looked at her, his face rigid, almost expressionless, as he processed her words. "Did you ever want it to end like this?" he repeated. "And how did you think this would end, Lisa? Did you think I was just going to accept the betrayal and the theft as if they were part of a plan that I had no right to question? Or did you think I would never find out?" Lisa tried to get closer, but Adam raised his hand, pushing her away before she could touch him. There was a barrier between them now, invisible but impenetrable. "Don't touch me," he said, his voice low and firm. "You have no right." She stopped, feeling the weight of that sentence. For the first time, he realized that everything between them was destroyed. Not just marriage, but also friendship, affection, respect. Everything that supported them was in ruins. And that was her fault. Adam turned his back again, this time walking towards the door. Lisa watched him, knowing that any attempt to hold him back would be futile. She had lost. She lost the man who loved her, she lost her marriage, and, even worse, she lost herself in the process. Her choices, which seemed so rational and calculated, now left her alone in the middle of chaos of her own making. "I'll talk to my lawyers," Adam said before leaving the room, his voice now firm and decisive. "I'll make sure you come out of this with nothing, Lisa. And honestly, you deserve it." And with those words, he left, leaving Lisa alone in a room that now seemed as cold and empty as the future that awaited her. She collapsed onto the bed, the weight of the moment finally crushing her. Silent tears streamed down her face as the reality of her actions hit her full force. Lisa didn't know what would come next. All she knew was that what she had built, what had once been her home, her safety, was now in ruins, and she had no one to blame but herself. The feeling of emptiness consumed her, and the only thing that remained was the deafening silence of the room that had once been the place where she and Adam dreamed together. Now it was just the tomb of a broken marriage. The days following Adam's departure were enveloped in a heavy, oppressive silence. Lisa remained in the house, now empty of any trace of life. The loneliness she had tried to escape met her relentlessly. Every corner of the house seemed to remind her of the mistakes she made, of the choices that destroyed everything that once meant something to her. The vibrant colors of his artwork on the walls seemed to mock the darkness that now dominated his life. The truth, however, was that Lisa no longer felt anything. The weight of regret was suffocating, and she knew there was no way to fix what she did. Adam had been her safe haven, and she destroyed him with her own hands. The divorce, as expected, was quick and painful. Adam, with the evidence of financial theft and betrayal, got what he wanted. Lisa left home with nothing. The lawyers worked with surgical precision, ensuring that she had no recourse to easily get back on her feet. As she said goodbye to the house, Lisa experienced one last moment of reflection. All the nights of doubt, the times when he wondered if he was making the right choice, were now irrelevant. She had made the wrong choice, and there was no going back. As she walked through the door for the last time, she knew the future would be a long, empty road, a journey in which she would have to confront her own demons. Adam, on the other hand, was trying to start over. But the fresh start, despite being necessary, did not bring the relief he expected. Lisa's betrayal still reverberated in his mind. Every time he tried to distract himself with work or new experiences, it was as if a shadow from his past followed him, reminding him that the love he trusted in had been turned to ashes. The lonely nights in the temporary apartment he rented seemed endless. There was a void he couldn't fill, and the feeling of having been betrayed was slowly eating away at him. On impulse, Adam decided he couldn't stay in that place. He needed to get away, find some kind of peace that would help him deal with the hurt. He sold what was left of his old life and moved to another state, far from any memory of Lisa. There, he began to seek a new perspective, but the scar he carried on his chest never completely disappeared. There were times when he wondered if he would ever be able to trust again, to open himself to love without the constant fear of being deceived once again. For Lisa, time was even crueler. Without Adam's financial support and with her reputation ruined in the local artistic world, she was forced to live off favors from friends, which were increasingly scarce. The people who once frequented her home, who admired her art and charismatic personality, now avoided her. The doors closed one by one, and Lisa, who had longed for freedom, was now trapped in an aimless life. The independence he sought had turned into loneliness, and the adrenaline rush he felt from living his parallel life had disappeared, leaving only an echo of regret. One night, while wandering the streets, Lisa came across a small gallery where an exhibition was taking place. She entered, wanting to relive the feeling she once had, of being admired for her art. But, when observing the works on display, she realized that the world had moved forward, while she had remained stagnant, trapped in the past that she herself had destroyed. His talents, which had once been his identity, now seemed empty, without purpose. Lisa tried to rebuild her career, but the art market did not forgive her. Her connections faded, and the glow she carried faded with time. Without Adam, without her home, and without the opportunities that once surrounded her, she lived with the constant weight of her personal ruin. The price of her choices had finally caught up with her. Meanwhile, Adam, in his new life, slowly began to find some kind of peace. Although the pain of betrayal never completely left him, he learned to live with it, to use it as a reminder that not everything can be controlled or predicted. He made new friends, started over at a new job, and over time allowed himself to think about the possibility of meeting someone again. But this time, he knew, it would be different. Trust would not be given blindly, and he would be more cautious. Time passed, and the wounds, although healed, never completely disappeared. Adam learned to move on, but he would always carry with him the lessons that Lisa's betrayal taught him. He knew that no matter how much he tried to erase that chapter of his life, the impact it had on his soul would never be completely forgotten. For Lisa, life continued as a shadow of what it once was. His days were long and lonely, filled with regret for all he had lost. She looked back at what she once had with Adam and knew she destroyed something she could never get back. The love, the respect, the trust, everything was gone, and now she was left with only the loneliness and emptiness of her choices. And so ends the story of Adam and Lisa, a story of love destroyed by betrayal and blind ambition. Comment below what you thought of this story. What would you have done in Adam's place? And Lisa, did she deserve the fate she had? We want to know your opinion. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to follow more stories like this. And remember, here, we do not support any type of betrayal. The stories are fictional, but the moral is clear: betrayal destroys lives and hearts. Until next time.